Hey, good morning, good morning. Welcome to day 4 of Titan Futures live stream. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's Monday, August 26, 2019 at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, um, 8 a.m. Central Time where we live. But looking to get going today pretty quick. Um, Hopefully, everybody can hear my partner there, Soto. Soto, can you speak?
Again, good morning.
All right, good. Excellent, excellent. Glad to hear you. I'm assuming everybody else can hear. Um, so hopefully we can finally got this thing kind of worked out a little bit. But again, if you guys are just joining us, thanks for checking us out. This is Titan Futures daily live stream, learning to trade the futures market. Um, you can see here on my screen there's disclosure statements. Please take a few minutes to read those. I'll leave those up for just 1 second. And then we can kind of get into the markets and just kind of start talking about the markets in general and the methodology that we trade here at Titan Futures. Um, just 1 second here. All right, thanks. There's the disclaimer. All right, so let's check out some charts. Let me know, Soto, when you can see my chart there, bud.
Okay. Right now, I just see the disclaimer.
All right, that's fine. Got a little lag going on here this morning, but hopefully you can
There we go. I got the chart.
get the chart up. All right, good. Okay. Um, All right, good. Well, if you're just now seeing my chart there, you can see I've got some stuff drawn on the chart here. Just a potential zone. There's a couple right here in this area of potential zones that we're looking at to go short. But like I said, it's just kind of a early in the morning before the market's open as far as the New York session goes for the stock market. But the futures are obviously open and running pretty hard this morning. But this is a 5 minute chart of the E-minis. So, kind of going to keep it simple. I've been kind of giving a suggestion to kind of get rid of all the other charts I've had out here and just kind of go back to being very basic. I tend to forget sometimes. I've been doing this 20 plus years, so I kind of tend to take a lot of things for granted and just move forward as part of my routine because I've um, been doing this for so long. So try to want to get back to the basics. So if you've definitely got some questions and we're moving too quick, please holler or please write them on the chat, and we can kind of try to answer some of those. And that's one thing about what Soto's going to be able to do is kind of also kind of remind me of that and kind of help and um, get some of these questions in here. Sounds like Soto. Do you hear all that squeaking, the squealing?
I don't, but I'm listening to you over Skype, not on YouTube, so I don't
Okay,
hear any.
okay. I'm hoping they can't hear it on the thing. More technical issues here. Hey, at least we're gonna get them out a little bit. We've made some progress anyway. Hopefully, you guys can hear Soto. So that's not been the case before. So hopefully, you can at least hear him now. And we'll work on some more getting this squealing out of the way. I don't know why that's doing it. So try to fix that. It definitely seems to be on my mic on my end here because I'm only hearing it when I talk. Uh, but anyway, well, guys, like I said, if it's your first time here, really appreciate you checking us out. Or if you're watching this on replay on YouTube, thanks again for taking the time to at least watch the replay. But you can join us every morning here, Monday through Friday. We try to live stream and kind of talk about the markets and trade the market, the ES market especially, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or 11:30. It's just kind of take that by how the market's moving. We might leave at right at 11, but or we might decide to, because the trade's setting up and we want to got good price action and volume, we might try to hang out to about 11:30, but rarely we'll go past that. We'll try to get this thing done pretty early in the morning because we only go for really 1 point a day. If we have some other trades that set up, then we'll maybe take those. If everything's perfect and it's a high probability trade, we still might take those trades. But this is as you can see here, this is, or as I should say, this is a 1 point a day challenge kind of concept here. Just get used to making that 1 point, and if you can learn to master that 1 point, then you'll do extremely well in trading in the ES market. So that's kind of what we really shoot for here, just kind of get you to be able to get that 1 point. Some days, like I said, you're going to have other opportunities to make a couple trades, or 2 or 3 trades, and get multiple points, and that's great. But we definitely want to try to nail down that 1 point. Okay. So let me just kind of tell you a little bit about the channel again. You can read it in the description there, but this is a very, we want this to be a good learning channel, very positive. I want you to everybody be open-minded in here and realize that, hey, what you're going to learn in here is going to be very basic, and that's all you need. You don't need all the fancy indicators and all the different news feeds and all the all the talking heads. You don't need all that kind of stuff to make a living in the market. So you're going to find that this channel seems to be very basic, and it is, and it's that way for a reason. Okay, so and I think you'll find that if you've been trading a very long time, it probably, once you kind of get rid of the junk that's in your head that you think you have to do and have to know and have to have on your charts to be successful, I think you're going to realize that it's kind of refreshing to go ahead and go back to keeping things simple. And that's what we want to do here, is keep things simple. Okay, because simple is more often than not the best way to go on most things. So with that said, we'll kind of keep the channel that way, and keep the conversation that way, and we won't go into too much in depth on terminologies, and we'll just talk about the things that we need to talk about. But we'll point out what we think are opportunities to trade and why they're opportunities to trade. And you'll learn our methodology. And again, you can look at our YouTube channel, start watching a few videos. I still have to add 3 or 4 more videos as far as the methodology goes, but I will be adding those. But from here on, but today you'll just kind of learn a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about support and resistance, some to kind of go to the next chapter of what part of the methodology. We'll do that. And we'll do that throughout the 2 hours as we're sitting and wait and be patient for trades to come to us. So Soto, what do you thought? Any thoughts on that? What's your kind of this morning? What's your outlook this morning?
Yeah. Morning, BR. So listen, I was just watching the charts here, and I had a couple questions or different possible options for support and resistance in different zones for supply and demand. I see that you have a chart or a zone at let's see, right there on the top on the screen, the red area.
Yeah, right here.
I have one in the bottom at 855. Will
Uh-huh.
you consider that a good support in this case?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good supply zone. I mean, a demand zone, if that's what you're asking. Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
It is. That's
Okay.
a good demand zone.
So what separates a good support zone compared to an okay support zone, and also what makes it a good supply a resistance zone compared to a just okay uh,
Yeah,
resistance.
yeah. Well, support and resistance is definitely different than supply and demand. Okay, so they're both part of our methodology here, but today we'll kind of, the zones that I've got drawn on the chart here that you're seeing being drawn on the chart are actually supply and demand zones that Soto was just talking about. But as far as support and resistance goes, you'll see the green lines and the red lines, the dotted lines I have on my chart. Those are basically just a support and resistance indicators. It's called a swing indicator, and really it's more for visual purposes for me. just for the heck of it. But support and resistance is very, very simple. Support and resistance is just considered a floor and a ceiling concept. Okay, the resistance is like this your roof, your ceiling. That you can't kind of go above. You kind of bump up against, and support is actually the floor that you kind of walk on. Think of it in those two terms. Um, so you have a top and a bottom there. Okay, and support is when support and resistance are confirmed by the next candle where it's broken, the high and low is broken. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to show you this candle right here. These two candles. Let me circle these two candles so you can kind of see the two I'm talking about. One is going to be a pivot for support, and the other one's going to be a pivot for resistance. Okay. So let me draw these two here. I know there's just a few seconds lag here, so I'm going to let those catch up. But you'll be able to see these two candles I've circled here, and that's going to we'll kind of talk about those as being support and resistant pivots, and just kind of talk through those real quickly. But support and resistance is very simple. Okay. To the basic, if you could just drop it all the way down to the basics of it, don't get overcomplicated. But you can see the two circles I've circled here, or the two candles I've circled, and the one is support. The one at the bottom here is a support pivot candle. Okay, it's also a doji pin bar looking candle, but what that is, it's confirmed by the very next candle. Okay, so you'll see in this area right here, you'll see the very next candle would be a green candle that broke the high of that circled candle. Okay, that confirms that there's a new high coming out of that area. Okay, and that is a confirmed support candle then. Okay, that's kind of all that means. It becomes a pivot candle at that point because the high has been broken. Okay, we were on a little down move. This put in a rejection area here on the support candle, and then the next candle broke the high of that candle, so that confirmed it being a support area. Okay, it's that simple. The next candle broke the high, so that makes it a support. It's just the opposite for the candle up here to the left at the high, the top one I've got circled there. You'll see that you have a rejection wick on that candle there. Okay, and then the very next candle I put in a big long red candle, okay, which broke the bottom, the low of that candle, which made it confirmed resistance. So and that's the basic definitions basically of support and resistance, no matter how you put it on the chart. There's major support and major resistance, but those are usually done on a larger time frame, but they can be broken down into very small increments of support and resistance, and that's what I'm showing you here, because this is a 5-minute candle. Okay, but it's the concept still goes the same. So as far as the reds and green lines, like I spoke to earlier, those are just kind of visual concepts of that happening. Okay, of the support and resistance happening. So you see a bunch of that happening on this chart right here. But again, it's just kind of tells you that when you start seeing a lot of those things, a lot of those red and green lines getting closer and closer and tighter, that there's more support and resistance in those areas. So there's going to be a lot of buyers and sellers kind of going on in that area of the market. So I know that's that's the basic support and resistance of a explanation. So it's really basic, and I mean, you understand support and resistance. You might be able to lay it out a little bit better. I'm kind of this morning kind of got some things going on, so I'm all over the place. But you can probably once you go ahead and explain that in your words, that might be a little more clear. But Paul, thank you. I see you can hear us both. That's great. Finally, that's coming through. So that's awesome. Thanks, Paul. Good to have you here. Go ahead. Soto, go ahead and tell us what your definition of support and resistance is, please.
Yeah, sure. First, I think you did a great job explaining it. So I'm just gonna see if I can add anything else to what you already said. Um, but like you said, the biggest thing is when you're trying to find a pivot point, you follow the following candle, get sure it breaks, like in your example, the previous previous high, which creates a new that pivot point at the bottom. Just you want to be sure it continues to go that way with the pivot, like creating that V shape. And again, that creates your support and resistance. And the cool thing about support and resistance is, for example, looking at the bottom doji in your on your screen, um, that at the time right now is considered support. But if it breaks through it, we will treat it as resistance, and so and then eventually we'll create um, a new support at the bottom. So it's good to understand that even though it's broken, and when it breaks, it will take a little fuel to break. Support resistance don't break easily, so the volume will have to pick up a little bit in order to break through that, and usually it will be tested a few times before it's broken. Um, and I don't know if you agree with that,
Yeah,
okay?
I do. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that.
So, and once it's broken, again, we would treat it as uh, if it was support, it will become resistant, and the opposite is true. So, but you can see he drew the little V there and the little movement, and if you can able to see on his screen, the 9 o'clock candle broke the 7:45 uh, resistance. But if you look at the volume was dramatically high, so it needed that much power to break through it, and uh, and it created a new, or potentially on your screen, it looks like he broke that support or resistance rather.
Yeah, and that's kind of all I'm showing here is confirmed. Um, confirmed resistance here. I'm just gonna type this out real quick just so people can see that if they want to. But but yeah, you're exactly right. You kind of explained it the right way here. Hold on just a second. I'm trying to. My old font's too big here. Let me kind of bring it down a little bit.
And but if you are looking at the screen, if you look at those big red zones and the green zone, those are supply and demand zones. Those are the zones that we will use based on the candle. We will draw those zones usually on a candle from the high of the candle, the wick high, to the wick low, on the supply and demand candle, which will give us an opportunity for a trade zone if all of our tools line up. So we will continue to do our checklist, checking volume, price action, supply and demand, along with a couple other things that we'll talk about later as we progress in our trading. But using those tools will give us a pretty good idea of the high probability of a turn coming to take a trade to go either long or go short. And again, when we say go long, uh, we're placing a buy for the price to go up, or to go short, we're placing a sell to go price to go down. So
Yeah, exactly. Good job. That's right. Excuse me, I'm kind of all over the chart here trying to fix some things, but I'm just kind of write out what's confirmed resistance and confirmed support there, so you can kind of see that. But and we'll keep that on the chart so you can kind of see a good basic example of support and resistance. But um, yeah, so what sort of was talking about zones here. That's all supply and demand, which is a different concept. Excuse me, but we'll get into that as we go. We're going to talk about just kind of keep watching support and resistance. I'll drop out to a larger time frame here in a minute so you can kind of see it again and kind of a little bit more in depth. Because it is good to as we actually come into our methodology, what we do and what's good to do is kind of zoom out to a larger time frame. So I spoke about this last week. We'll go out to a 60-minute. The market's just kind of popping around this morning, not doing a whole lot. We got 10 minutes till the open, so I probably not going to have a lot of activity until that time frame. But we can kind of kind of teach a little bit about support and resistance at this point. Um, Let me remove this line here. But you can see on a larger time frame, you can see confirmed support and resistance. Okay, yeah, you see it with the red line and green line still. There's fewer of them, and that just means that because you're on a larger time frame, you know the support and resistance still happens. It just happens on a slower pace, I guess you could say. But um, you can see that we have in this area here, you'll be able to see when the chart catches up to me here. Right there where my cursor is at, you can see a support and resistance that was broken to the long side, or resistance was broken to the long side. They're pretty strong through the night. That was actually last night, Sunday night, and early this morning. Market was moved really good through the European session, um, which you tend to get a lot of good moves out of there. Um, so we were going to watch those are good things to watch on Sundays. That's just kind of a little hint there, but it's something really good to watch. But kind of get back to support and resistance. You can kind of see it even on a 60-minute time frame. You can kind of see the visuals, real quick visuals of support and resistance, and that's what we want to learn, and kind of what we want to be able to spot immediately, even without this little swing indicator that I have there. But if you want to put that on your chart, I'll show you where to go up to get that. You go into your indicators on NinjaTrader. Okay, right here on NinjaTrader, you'll drop down the indicator window. You'll just scroll down to the S's, and you'll see a swing indicator right here. All you can do is just double click on it, and you can set the swing level to as strong or as weak as you'd like. I have mine on set to 2 right now, just because we trade on a 5-minute chart, and we want to watch for zones of supply and demand, and so I keep my indicator set to 2 on that. As far as swing, that's what you see is a lot of different lines. It basically just says that we want to keep we want the indicator to mark up when there's 2 or more candles that confirms a swing or a pivot to the long side or the short side. Okay, support and resistance. So that's basically what that means. But support and resistance is a very widely accepted concept of how to trade in the markets. So we want to understand that and not discard that fact that many traders are looking for that. Okay, and we want to watch that, because those are always going to be areas of congestion to an extent, and but it's a great area to see where the big boys who we follow, okay, institutions, see that retail traders recognize those areas. Okay, and we want to recognize those areas for the fact that when you find a really good support and resistance area, and you can identify the supply and demand zones out of that support and resistance area, then you're going to find out that's where the big boys are going to be at, and that's where they're going to take price from, and take orders and take the money. So we want to be on their side when it comes to that. So that's one reason we break it back down to a 5-minute chart, to kind of so we can see that very closely. And as I go back in here to the 5-minute chart, you can see it's identified a little bit better, and you can see areas where price is really moving. When we put volume into the picture here, and remember, as Soto said, we kind of have a checklist we kind of go off of out of the 5 tools of the methodology. You know, from price action to volume to support and resistance, supply and demand, my trade zones, and then the order flow. I'll kind of throw all those in there. I haven't shown you order flow yet. I have it on a different chart going on, but on a different screen, a different chart. But that'll come in down the road a little bit, because of the fact I don't need you to get confused early on and get overwhelmed by that, because there's a lot going on in order flow when it comes to bid and ask, supply and demand, and support and resistance. There's a lot going on, so we don't want to overwhelm you there. So we're going to take it very slowly and just have you get used to looking at the basics, which is price action and volume and support and resistance, and you'll see some supply and demand zones. So we'll throw those on the chart here when we look for trades. It's like we possibly have something coming up here, and we'll kind of watch this as it plays itself out. Um, so Soto, as this comes in here, what are you seeing as a potential? Do you see anything potentially going on in a demand area here?
I do. I actually have a candle I'm looking at that has already been used at 735, and I believe that's the candle that's been feeding out of for the last 5, 10, 15, 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes. Um, and that overlaps with our the zone that you have there at 855. So it's going to require, I think, a little field to get down there to break through that little zone and that little su- support. So I don't think it's going to get to us just yet. But I think if everything looks good, I'm going to potentially put a trade in around 2871. Just kind of the close and open of the 850 and sorry, 855 and 9 o'clock candle. If you can see that, so the
Yep.
close of candle and the open. Um, and again, it looks like fuel is picking up. I think they're trying to get down there. Uh, volume looks good right now. Um, price action looks good. So I like the wicks, going back the last 5, 10 minutes. But like I said, I think they're being fitting off the that little resistance, sorry, support at the bottom there, and from the candle. Will you agree with the candle from 735?
Yeah, it's definitely an area because if you can look at that, you can look at visually, you can see that candle plus the resistance areas there that have been marked on the chart by the green lines. That's all area of supply and demand that is happening on the support and resistance area. So you kind of have both things going on there. So that's you can see recently there's a lot of wicks being rejected out of that area. So that tells you that there's some demand sitting right there. There's buyers and orders are sitting right there being picked up. So that is a good observation there. I think we need to, like you said, we got that zone drawn. I think it's a good zone. It's kind of right in the middle of kind of a lot of money. If you look at it from a sideways market standpoint, there's a lot of sideways action there. Um, I think we could, with volume, we got to watch volume here, like you suggested, and I think we can just be patient and see if the wicks kind of continue to reject a little bit and the bodies get a little smaller, or price just stays low and the volume stays low, but the price stretches, so to speak. And that's kind of what we're seeing happen right here. So let's just kind of wait to see what volume does. But I think a good entry is in the 71 area. Even 71 and a quarter is fine, in my opinion. But all the way down to, you got some good areas into down here at the 70-50 area. So it's kind of a what makes you feel comfortable in this area because we're kind of moving back into a sideways market where there's a lot of um, accumulation going on. So we just need to kind of watch it a little bit. Volume's picking up a little bit. So we kind of need to be patient here, is what that's telling us. Be a little more patient. Volume is picking up. So it could stretch down a little bit deeper or it could hit, and it's going to bounce here. We know it's going to have some reaction here, most likely, one way or the other. Or, I mean, to the upside, we know that. It's just a matter of um, is it meeting our criteria right now? Does it meet our criteria right now? Well, what's going on? So you tell me that.
Yeah, everything seems to be lining up except volume. But again, we expect the volume to increase. I expected volume to increase a little bit to get down there to work through the pockets of money from that previous zone I mentioned at 735. So again, I expect the volume to increase a little bit to fight through the area. But everything seems to be lining up. Besides volume, price action looks good. I would rather have the candle a little get the candles a little smaller. We got about 18 seconds left here. So this will tell me after this candle, depending on this how this candle finishes, it will make me feel better if to go in a trade. If there's a good wick and there's not, I'm gonna be patient and wait.
Okay.
So
All right. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is at the open, obviously, so we're going to have, there's your trade right there, or, well, there's a trade potentially, but yeah, it's right here at the open, so we want to be patient.
yeah,
So as you can see why we want to be patient at the open right there. It just
there
kind of
it is.
blew through it. So we can might be get down into some more support areas. There's a lot of there's a whole lot right in this area where it looks like we might be getting a rejection. There's a lot of sideways action right there in this area here. You see all these candles right in this area. A lot of sideways movement, a lot of wicks, a lot of small bodies. So this area is a definitely area of battle, you could say, between the buyers and sellers. We are getting rejection out of this lower area. Um, so this is something you definitely have to be careful for when you come to the open and be patient. Um, According to our methodology, we did this zone, this green zone right here, it was a good zone, but it wasn't the right zone because our volume was steadily increasing from 925 to 930 to now to 935. It's grown quite a bit, so it's just opposite of what we wanted to do to have an entry, even though uh, the supply, I mean, the demand zone was there. It just wasn't in our time yet. Obviously, and you can see we wanted to go a little bit lower and to grab price before it took off, or at least rejecting out of that area nicely. But this is a good reason. That's a very good example why we are patient to wait for our all of our checklists to kind of be completed before we get in, even though we had two out of the three, or two out of the five, or three out of the five, we needed all five. Okay, all four to five. For what you can see, we really needed at least four of those, and we didn't have all of them. And the biggest one being volume. Okay, but one of the cool things about it, and which is what's neat, the fact about the whole situation is this candle right here is proven our method is real and our method works, and we are in the right area as far as the big boys go, where their money's at. Because even though our method, I mean, our zone was drawn just a little, was drawn right, but there was also other zones here, as you can see, that took on that the money was actually getting to, the big money was actually getting to, if that makes sense. There's a zone right there. So you can see it wanted to get to that point. It's easy to draw that after the fact, but the whole point is we were in the right area for demand. Okay, and that's a win in our book, to understand that um, supply and demand's real. It's the right way to trade, and you just have to get to become a master at the entry, and our methodology helps you with that. Um, and don't let it be disheartening to the fact that we didn't get into this trade because our method wasn't, all the checklist wasn't complete, I guess I should say. But we know we were in the right area. We have the right methodology. We have the right concepts of what's really going on, what the story's trying to tell us here, what the market's trying to tell us. So that's a very good thing. And this is just confirmation to me. But because of these rejection wicks on both sides, I mean, you got it on both sides. It just goes to tell you there's a lot going on right here. This is a big area of sideways action, and that's another thing to look at. So it's not the most ideal setup for us. We don't want to be in sideways action to trade, but the whole point is you can see that supply and demand is working, support and resistance is working. So that's a confirmation that we know what's kind of going on. We're learning to read this market, okay, and that's a big deal. All right. So it's just being patient at this point. Just get out of all this sideways congested area. Kind of draw that. I mean, that's just a lot of sideways congestion going on right here. And let's get out of that before we make some good trades. But you can see inside of there, the market can, a lot of tug of war going on, I guess you could say. So we want to be patient and get through that, get into a trending market, and wait for breathers to happen into our zones, into our supply and demand zones. And that's when you're going to have the ultimate trades. And this is part of being patient, not trying to take every trade, because you can see it kind of bumping back and forth. And as a new trader, you want to jump on everything you can see. You want to make a bunch of trades because you want to make that money. But all you're seeing is happening right here. This is a perfect example of big boys cleaning house, making money, picking up trades and getting rid of by hitting stops and taking profits. That's just what it is. Accumulation and distribution. And so we just want to wait for us to get out of this zone here, out of this area of sideways congestion, and then we'll look for our method to come back into play in support and resistance supply and demand areas. Okay, does that make
BK.
sense? Yeah,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I like, and again, I'm a lot slower than you are going through the steps. But as I was talking, and I was hoping if I said it something incorrect, you would stop me. But again, as we were talking to a potential trade, if you notice, as I was going down the checklist, the one thing that did not line up again was volume. Uh, like you mentioned, again, it was increasing, even just a little bit. And again, that goes back to being patient, checking, doing the checklist, and if something doesn't line up, that's supposed to line up, just wait for another opportunity. So again, like you said, being patient is going to be the key. Don't try to talk yourself into a trade just because it's getting close to a trade. If not everything lines up, don't take the trade.
exactly right. Yeah, I mean that's what we spoke on earlier on in the first couple days of trading live here, and that's one thing you're going to hear and continue to hear on our method is patience. Patience is everything in this game. Again, there's days we might not even trade, because of patience and a good, even in a very volatile market that's giving us some really good runs and stuff like that. There's still days we won't even make a trade, even in those days when we have good trends because our method did not set up, and we have to be okay with that. Our goal, like I said, is net 3 points a week, and to others that might not seem like a lot, but it all comes down to letting your money compound. And in a 3 month time period or less, if you can do that, you're going to see significant returns in your account into the hundreds of return. So depending on if you trade our method. But um, so again, like Soto said, volume checklist is everything. Especially in a sideways market like this, very rare we're going to make a good trade. But if everything lines up, we might do that depending on some more advanced uh, concepts that I can speak to later on. We might trade in a sideways market when everything lines up properly, but this morning, this early, this kind of a sideways market, it's just not worth the risk to your account when we know that good trades are coming. Okay, good trades will always come. We just have to be patient and wait on them. So yes, the checklist is extremely important. It's kind of what we live by, and it's been proven to work for a very long time, very very well. And the market will not change. The market personality might change as far as what's going on macroeconomic wise. But what's really cool from a technical analysis standpoint, the opportunities will always be there, and that's what's really cool. So you just have to learn that with time and be patient and understand that you will have opportunities to trade. Okay, so that's one of the big disciplines in trading is sitting on your hands. And as a professional trader, I told you it could be very boring at times, and and that's just part of it. So you got to learn to deal with that and learn how to handle that emotionally, because emotions can kill you in this game. It's the number one killer. It's not the method. It's not the market. It's the emotions. So whatever your methodology is, stick to it and control your emotions. I mean, obviously, I feel like we've got one of the better ones, but I know it's been proven success, which is great. But um, emotions is the big key here. So, Mitchell, good seeing you on, man. Good, glad you're here. Look forward to you being able to jump in over the next few days and kind of throw your 2 cents in here and get your perspective on some things. It'd be good when all three of us can jump on and have the conversations. So look forward to that. But glad you're back. I know you got some things going on this morning. Not able to jump in from an audible standpoint, but good to see you in the room, kind of watching. So if you got any questions or wisdom to throw out there, please do so on the chat, and we'll kind of keep talking. So, all right. So let's just kind of watch a little bit.
Yeah, and if you notice, and I know you do, but if the people watching notice, the last two candles are staying between our the support resistance that we have spoken about a little earlier today,
Yeah.
we're still haven't broken through the support and the resistance yet. And at this point, at least for me, and I'm sure for you too, you're gonna wait to break out of those zones.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Let me turn that
yeah.
off. Sorry about that, guys. But yep.
Oh,
But yeah, you're exactly right. So I'll draw this other zone of demand from our support area that I've got confirmed. You'll see that's drawn and how nicely that looks now, obviously, but we don't trade after the fact. We knew that could be an area, but we just didn't really concentrate too much. But it's kind of the bottom of this sideways action, which is a sideways trader, or are they called breakout traders? It This is one of those things that always looks great after the fact. It's kind of like, well, we knew it was going to go to the bottom, we knew it was going to go to the top, and kind of in a sideways market, you can kind of always go short at the top, at the resistance, and you can always go long at the bottom at support. Well, that's just not true all the time. So there's always a area where it's going to break out of and get you. So we don't want to always kind of count on that. It looks good now, but we don't trade on hindsight. Okay, but it's good to recognize what's being respected. And in this scenario, obviously the demand area is being respected. There are a lot of rejection wicks. If you can kind of see to the left here of this confirmed support area, I'll kind of just draw a little area of what I'm referring to. This area here, you can see a lot of rejection wicks, and it's being matched by the 940 candle rejection. You can kind of see how it got into our rejections, all the wicks to the left of from starting from 6 o'clock on, and I'll draw those out here just so you can see what I'm referring to. All those rejection wicks right there are telling you a story, right? So it's time to watch those. And and as we see, it's confirmed by the 940 that's happening. Um, so this is all stuff to watch, all stuff to be concerned about, but not necessarily ready to trade yet. Um, so I'm just not, even though we might end up pulling a good trade out of this here in a few minutes as far as um, the market looks and the concepts, I just don't like the fact that we're still in the sideways action, so I'm not going to trade until we break out of the sideways action one way or the other. So it might not happen for a while. It might happen right at 10 o'clock, where I tend to tell you from 9:45 to 10:15, you kind of have a market direction in place by the big boys, and that could definitely be taking place right here to where they're setting up to kind of make their move for the day, and we just kind of have to watch that. And we just have to keep an eye on it and see what's happening here and what's going to happen. But that's part of trading, just being patient and watching, not trying to take every trade that you think is a possibility. Okay, so that's kind of how it goes, because you can see right here in the sideways action, once you get really good at supply and demand, you can see there's a lot of supply and demand zones inside of this sideways action right here that you said, oh, I could take that trade, I could have taken that trade. Well, it's just dangerous to do that in a sideways market. So we want to get into a trending market again, one way or the other, and wait for a movement that meets our criteria. Okay.
that's great. Now, what would you tell BK? What would you tell people? I know obviously the zone was already triggered, and then it broke through it. The 855 zone I'm talking about that was originally a demand. Would you, if price continues to drop, and let's say the breakthrough that support, would you use that as a supply zone, or will you go maybe back to the 835 zone, use that as a supply zone, maybe not mess with it? What would you do? What would you tell people? Or delete it? Just
Yeah.
forget it. What would you tell people about that?
Well, the only thing I would use at this point, I have to break. I won't have any trades till I break out of this sideways action completely. So if I break out to the short side here, my zone is actually going to be as a that was this demand zone here that I have circled as confirmed support. That would actually become supply for me.
Okay.
So my that would end up being my new zone is at not at 820 would end up being a supply zone if it broke short with some strength. Okay. And continue to act like it's going short a couple candles and get some closes below that from a couple candles and show strength to the downside at that point, then that would actually become that was demand would become supply for me. Okay. Um, but we have to break out one way or the other. I won't take any zones either way, even though they've been broken one way or the other. I won't take any zones this morning on a sideways in all this sideways action right here. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. Um, I don't like any of the sideways action because there's support and resist. I mean, there's supply and demand zones that have been broken on both sides in the sideways action. So I don't know which one is going to hold and which one's better at this point. So I don't want to take a chance just because it's too much of a risk if that makes sense, and I don't want to be involved in that. I want to wait till good high probability of trades at this point.
Yeah, we have a question here from Mitch. Mitchell says, "Do you guys like the 2866.25? I feel like a resistance at the bottom of the zone lies there. If volume decreases, is that a safe trade?"
Well, you kind of it's a potential. It was a potential to be a safe trade, but unfortunately, it got you at this point. I think, yeah, we've taken you out at this point right there. Um, I don't like it just for the fact that the candles are long. If you look at these candles in price action, even though there's a lot of rejection out of that, these all these candles are long. If that makes sense, this 945 candle and a nine, I mean they're just long, showing strength to the downside. Even though volume is lower, price is stretching for a reason. I think this is big boys right here grabbing up. Personally, I think that's just them just grabbing um, stops, if you could say, because that really does happen, whether you believe it or not. That's how that really does happen. And if you kind of go to the left here, let's kind of bring this out here. You can see there's still a lot of areas of support over here. Okay, to the left. When you start looking at the morning candles and you got a big move, you see supply and demand over here. Actually, you see a lot of demand over here. So could this be an area of demand over here? Absolutely, it can. So we kind of have to watch a bigger picture here. That's good you didn't take that trade because it would have got you, obviously. But the candle's a little bit too long for me. Remember, we want to read candles because that's price action. We want those to get smaller and smaller, not longer. And it just didn't. I just didn't like it mainly because of the sideways action. We need to get out of that. And with a big candle like that and sideways action, it's just not very confirming to me and makes doesn't make give me the warm and fuzzies if that makes sense. Uh, so yeah, you're right. The candles were too big for you, so that's good, Mitchell. That's good that you're seeing that. That's important, man. It's all part of the process here, and it looks fun that we want to trade because half of our checklist lines up, and we want to take that trade, but that's just a way too high risk of a trade, and we just don't want it right now. So good job there. Um, so if you look to the left here, you can see back in the kind of the mid-morning action around 3 o'clock this morning, you had big moves to the long side from the European session. So obviously there's some buyers into this area. Okay, so you're seeing price kind of reject a little bit into this area. So we kind of want to watch it. There's a couple of different areas of demand that we could be drawing right here, but I'm not going to draw them just yet. Okay, I'll start drawing those when volume slows down a little bit more for me. Okay, then I'll start to say, okay, I need to look to see where price is starting to going to recognize this area of buyers, and the buyers are going to tell us no, we're going this direction, and that's what I'll kind of wait for. Even though, again, like I said, per the method, you can kind of look to the left and see some of the zones that would be drawn, and it'd be tempting to draw those to take trades out of those. Um, and this could work, but it just doesn't meet. They're a little higher risk, and it just doesn't meet all of my criteria at this point in my checklist. So just want to be patient. Let's let price kind of decide what it wants to do. It's a Monday morning, so we want price to kind of give us a little bit of direction here. So let's kind of go back in, tighten it up a little bit, and look over here. And now we might want to look at, we've got to get close to the downside here. So now we want to start to look at that zone we talked about earlier. Does this become supply now? So that's the big question. Does this zone become supply? Um, so let's watch that and see. And if it does become supply, does volume slow into our zone here, and can we take it short? There's a possibility here. This might be a little bit better of a trade, and if that's the case, where is that trade? You know, is it at 66.50 to the downside? So we got to kind of watch this and see how tight we want to get it, um, and just kind of watch it and see. You know, um, this is all beautiful thing about the market in real time. We watch price action, and we have to make a best decision based on our methodology. 940. Let's see what he's saying there. What is your protocol in a zone like 940? That's way too big. We won't even mess with that. You know, we'll just stay away from this candle here in this zone. It's way too big on the 940. The zone I'd be looking at to go short if it potential lines up is the 820 zone, the red zone I've drawn now. That was demand. That's the zone I'd be looking at this point in time, watching for a potential trade. Volume's low going into that zone. We have a lot of rejection wicks over to the left again. So for me, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad trade in the 66.75 area to take a trade here. It might not get into that before it rejects. I don't know, but we just kind of have to watch it and see. Be patient. Be patient.
All right, if I would consider a trade here, I was going to go 28.67 and a quarter. 28.67 and a quarter.
Yep, that'd be a good trade in this area. That'd be a really good trade in this area, quite honest. So I wouldn't fault you one bit for that, especially how this candle's reacting right here. I'd like to see just one more candle, a small wick candle into that right there, and I think that would be a great trade. But we kind of have to watch and see how this candle plays out in real time. Um, but I think that's a good area. I think you got a lot of resistance right there in that area. So, and this is going to be obviously it's a good area of resistance with a lot of potential supply, because buyers have failed earlier in this area. So now there's a lot that shows you there's a lot of strength in selling in this area. A lot of people jumped on board to the downside, so we want to watch and see. Um, so
Is
this, go ahead.
Yeah, on your screen on your order flow, the current candle, is it? Did they leave it on cap at the open there?
Let me see. I killed my order flow by accident here. Oh
Uh,
shoot! I didn't mean to do that, but I did. I'll have to pull it back up. What do you have on yours?
I don't. I
You
don't
don't
have
have
order
order flow going right now. Okay.
on right now. I'm trying to keep it basic.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Hold on, let me get my order flow going back
It looks like volume is going to be slightly either right about the same or slightly lower or slightly higher from previous candle. So we're not going to see a significant increase, at least not yet. Uh, Actually, it's going to be a little lower, I think. So volume's going to drop a little bit.
on here. Yep. So yeah, hold on just a second. Let me get the order flow screen going back up on here. Good sign is it's showing some rejection out of that area right now. That's good. So we know that's there's actually some volume of sellers right there in this area. Um, so yeah, order flow. No, everything's capped right now on order flow. So not our ideal entry point yet. Would it have worked? Obviously, yeah, it would have worked great at 66.75, but our best entry that we thought if we were going to take the trade it was at 67.25. So we're not there yet. Okay. So let's just kind of keep watching and see what we got working.
All right, we have volume slightly decreased.
Yeah. Yep. What's going to give us a good sign here is if we keep a low volume, even short, even lower than the 55 candle, 955 candle there. If we can keep volume lower than that on a volume standpoint, let me draw a little line here just so you can kind of see what I'm referring to. That's the volume on the 55 candle. We want to stay underneath that, and if we can make a higher high than that candle into this resistance area, then that's kind of a divergence concept there, and we kind of want to watch that. So I think we can kind of see potential here, possibly to the downside, but we kind of keep watching price action, you know. But from an order flow standpoint, I don't have a cap zone there, but I got a good VPOC kind of around that area on the previous candle, so we kind of watch that area. Okay,
Okay.
let's just keep being patient. Mitch said he likes 69 as well. Yep. He's getting up in there quite a bit. Let's see, 69. Yep, not a bad area as well. It's another previous demand area that's could turn into supply for sure. So not a bad area. That's kind of in the thick of it from a VPOC standpoint. If you had to pull it out of this sideways action, that's kind of where it would be. But let me actually do something for fun here. Let me just see. And this is something you have to have order flow from I'll do it just through this zone right here and see what we got. Go ahead and stretch this all the way out. Yeah, so that's actually the VPOC like we discussed right here at the 6950 area. That would be a VPOC with our value area at 6850. Now this is a lot of, guys, if you're just watching this and not understanding this is a lot more kind of advanced talk here and what I've just drawn. But that shows area to the downside of strength here. So we're below the VPOC of all the sideways action. So that's a good sign, you know, that we might be in some shorts here for a little while. So it's something we want to watch for sure. In these areas, we really want to watch volume now, concentrate on what we're seeing, what the story's telling us, or what the market's telling us, and then kind of look to react based on that. But you can definitely see prior to drawing this order flow profile that we were definitely in the right areas of what we're discussing, which is great. So kind of keep watching here and look to be ready to take trades when they present themselves here. Okay.
All right. It looks like volume is gonna also to be decreased in this candle here.
Yep. Yep. All right. Price is high. We're going. There you go. I think this is a good trade right in this area here. At the 6850 time area, I think it could end up being a pretty good trade here. Otherwise, we'll get some rejection out of here. So that's called a value area. That you see the value area low is what that's called. The value area low. Do you guys see that on the chart?
Yes.
Okay. So that's an area of potential downside with the VPOC being right at 6950 of this previous sideways action. So I think we got a good potential trade into that point zone right there to go short. So we can watch that a little bit more. But I think we're setting up for a good potential short zone right here, short trade right here. So let's keep an eye on it here. I'm going to turn this. Green zone into a resistance area here. If I can get it to get up on my chart. There we go. All right, so just reverse that into a supply zone, and you can see we're just bumping against that 6850. Not getting a lot of commitment to the long side right here, getting more strength to the downside actually. You can actually even see that over here on your time and sales window if you have any kind of concerns about that or want to watch that. Which is nice. So Looking at volume going down, this is a big deal. I mean, this is part of this is everything lining up. Volume moving to the down, getting weaker. That's something to watch. Uh,
To me, I was looking at the candles. They still look really long candles. Are you okay with that?
well, these two are long candles, yeah, but this third one right here, I think because we're going into that area of VPOC right here,
Huh?
I think it's a potential good trade. So this kind of um, 50 is kind of a rejection area right now. We got into 50, 68.75, but so I'm not opposed to taking a trade right here. Um, I think, let me see here, where would I put my trade at? Um, yeah, I'd probably have a trade right here in the 69er right here, right around the 69. I feel is pretty safe. Um, Mitchell says he likes 69 as well, and I think that's a good observation. It's a good spot. Volume's decreasing, every bit of decreasing, even though we got some long candles here at 9:55 and 10 o'clock, but they're getting some rejection into this potential short area. So I would take a trade there at 69. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So let me see here. I'll go ahead and put a trade in here, and let's see if we can get some action into this zone. I like it. Um, we just needed to get in there and take us without going too fast and too hard. So we just kind of watch it and see what happens. But I got a trade at 69 sitting. Okay. Well, a lot of buyers coming in right there. So I'm in this trade. We'll kind of watch it and see what happens. Okay. Everybody see that? That's just what I'm doing. Whether it goes in our favor, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But we're watching this trade right here. All right, we're getting 3 ticks into our favor. We need to go a couple more ticks to get our point. So we just kind of watch and see if it happens. All right, first point taken. Did you hear that?
There you go.
Did you hear it? Were
I
you able
did
to hear
not.
the target field come through?
I see it on the screen.
Okay. All right. So we got our first point. I got two contracts on. I haven't moved the second one yet. It's a little bit different thing I'm doing right here. So I'll move it manually here in a minute. Um, I wanted to see if I can kind of catch a runner out of it. I might not, and that's okay. If we don't, but I'm gonna go ahead and move it to break even. At this point, I've got a point and a half in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get 2 ticks into this one right here and let it do what it's gonna do. Okay, so you can kind of watch that take place. Um, so I might get hit on my second one here, but at least I'm 2 ticks in the profit on that. So I'm guaranteed a point and a half at this point on a contract and a half. So one contract or 2 contracts actually. So I'll guarantee a point and a half. I got 1 full point on one contract. I'm guaranteed a half on a second.
Yeah, it looks like also Mitchell made a point made for Mitchell.
Oh,
Uh,
good, nice point, nice
2069.
job, Mitchell. Did you get in at 69? Yeah, good job. Yeah, you called that one nice and early, so good job right there. You're seeing some good stuff there. So just kind of watch and see if we can get a good run here. I got a target profit. You see it down there at 49. That's just a arbitrary target profit for me right now. Just kind of going to see if there's anything can kind of run. This is a runner. I've already got 2 ticks locked in. That's just really arbitrary, so I really wouldn't take anything from that. I'll just adjust that as it goes. I just don't want to get. I want to get a chance to run, and see if we can catch a runner this morning. We might not, but at least I know I've got a point and a half locked in on 2 contracts here, and I'm going to trade very small 1 to 2 contracts in the room here, so you can see that and just show that it can be done on smaller volume. Smaller contracts. In my live account, real account, as far as another live account, that's a real account. I trade quite a few more contracts than that, but the concept I want you to see is the same. And in about a month or two into this, I'm actually going to put in my live large, I guess you can say, um, account, and you can kind of watch how it slippage is not an issue like you might think it to be in the ES market, especially in this time. When you get 100 plus contracts, you're not going to have too much of a slippage issue. You're not really going to have any actually at 100 contracts, but we'll show you that over after you've kind of gotten into the live stream here and become a part of the channel and watching it. You'll kind of see that the potential scale here is phenomenal. Okay, um, it's an opportunity that most people just can't fathom or really don't take the time to think through and see what the potentials are here. That's the beautiful thing about learning to master this market of the ES and the S&P 500 because the liquidity issues are um, non-existent for us basically to 1,000 contracts, and we have to kind of play around with it a little bit. But when you're trading 1,000 contracts here on the ES, you're making some change. Let's put it that way. You're making some pretty good. 1 point on 1,000 contracts is $50,000. So, um, and that can happen very quickly, as you can see. So we just kind of watch it, okay? And just kind of, and I'll kind of go back. A month or two into this live stream, I'll kind of throw my big account on there so you can see slippage is not the issues, okay? Yep, great job, Mitchell. Good job, man.
Big K, if you don't mind telling people what's going on your chart regarding it. You got your 1 point, so you locked that in. But what are you doing now? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm just letting the entry run. I had two contracts on, and I moved my second. I took my 1 point, which I tell you, got to have that 1 point, right? You want to lock in a point always. And so what I've done is I'm up. I made my 1 point, so I'm feeling good about it. So now I've moved my second position stop loss into plus 2 ticks, meaning that I'm going to get a half a point guaranteed no matter what happens. I'm not going to lose anymore. There's no way for me to lose now, um, unless something just majorly happens in the market that we got bigger issues if it does and it runs right through a stop and gets some slippage. But not really worried about that concern. But right now I'm just letting my second position run, letting the market do what it's going to do for the day, kind of seeing if we can get some strength to the downside because we're kind of in a little bit of a zone of a demand zone right now, so it's going to battle a little bit. But that's all I'm doing is just letting the second position run. I already took off my first position, got my 1 point, and just letting the second position run. That's all I'm doing, and it's because it's a net positive. Like I said, 2 ticks, so it's up $300 right now. It's a little delayed on your end, but it's up $300 at second position. So I can either just let it, I can lock in $300 more right now and I've done well, or I can just let it run and see if it wants to play and get and catch that long runner, which I can do. I'm not in a position right now from a trade management standpoint to really get into to lock in more profit at this point. I need that low of the, let's see here, what candle, of the 950 to be broken pretty strong, and then when I create another pivot candle resistance, if I can get another resistance candle formed after the break of that um, 950 there, then I can actually lock in more profit. But for right now, I can't lock in profit from a market standpoint. I need to let it run and do what it's going to do. I don't want to cut losers too short. So most people would be tempted right here to lock in this $362 on this one position, but it's not letting me run. It's showing strength to the downside. It's starting to stretch a little bit, even though we don't have big volume to the downside. It's stretching a little bit. So I want it to break through this low pretty strong, and then hopefully it can rest a little bit, and then gain and create a new resistance area, so I can move more, lock in more profit, and then hopefully it will run to the downside pretty strong. That's kind of what I'm hoping for and looking at right here. So we just kind of have to wait and see. But that's all I'm doing, man. It's just letting the market do what it wants to do. And if we can get below the 280, 28.57.75, if we can break through that pretty good, then I probably don't even have to touch that my take profit candle. Spot. I can just leave it there and probably get hit. So, and that's all I'm letting happen right here, guys. Just kind of letting it run and let it do what it's supposed to do. The big deal that you're going to learn, when you start learning to take multiple position trades, is you got to have that runner. You got to let it run. You can't cut it off just because we got some good profit. Um, this is kind of icing on the cake kind of stuff right here, and we want to let it thicken up as much as we can, if that makes sense. So I want this thing to gain some strength to the downside. I need volume to pick up to the downside. It's really not picking up, so that just tells you it's actually decreasing. So that just kind of tells you we're not into a good area yet. A lot of buying going on right here still. So, but like I said, I'm not gonna move my stop. It might come all the way up and get me, and people will say, well, you just lost $350, $400 on that one position, and that's true. It is true. But through my experience, I've learned that catching those 5, 8 point, 10 point runners are they really add up in your account, and I'd rather give it time to do that. So I'm not worried about cutting it off at $300 in the long run. If that makes sense. If you're following what I'm trying to say. I want my second icing on the cake position to run, and I'm gonna let it run. I'm not gonna just take it. You know, if I was only trading with $1,000 account, now that'd be a little bit different. I'd take it. But you shouldn't be trading with two contracts with $1,000 anyway. So,
That's right.
so that's not our method. So we're just gonna let it run. That's all we're doing, letting it run. So. Does that make sense, or I kind
That's
of
perfect. No,
long-winded that answer and confuse
no,
you?
I think no, you did a great job explaining. I think most people, like you said, will want to close right here, lock that money in. But if you look at the big picture, like as you mentioned, trust the system and get those 8, 10 point runs, and which you might be getting right here because it looks like it just broke that. You may be getting some more money coming your way, but
It
my
might
friend.
be. Yeah, it might be. It's up $525 in that one contract, so that's good, But I want to let it run. I don't want to be hasty, and I don't have a position. I don't have a spot yet that I feel very comfortable that will hold to move my position. I need this make a good run. That I need it to take a breather and back up a little bit, and I have to expect that that's going to happen. I want it to back up a little bit and create a resistant, another pivot point. I get a pivot candle to the downside. Okay, so I'm looking for another candle like this candle to the left here that we have circled on our chart where it says confirmed R. I'm
Yes.
looking for a candle like that to this downside after it breathes a little bit, and then at that point I can move my stop loss just above that candle and lock in more profit. So I'm waiting for that. I've got volume increasing to the downside now, starting to increase a little bit. So I got to be patient now to see, okay, this thing's going to back up a little bit, take a little breather, and hopefully, not necessarily, but I'm hoping that it catches some resistance area here in this area around 6350-ish, 64, somewhere around there. I'm hoping it catches a area of resistance there and puts in puts in a confirmed resistance pivot candle, and then I can move and tighten up and lock in some more profit. But until that happens, I have to be patient. I can't just look at that number and freak out and say, "Oh, I got to lock that in," which I guess that's maybe a bad statement depending on your situation, but because right now I can still lock in $400. I could have locked in 600. I could have made 600 earlier, and that's a big number. Okay, that's a great trade. That's a good amount of money to lock in. I just feel like I don't want to cut myself short and give it some time to run. I've locked in a half point. It's $25 on one contract. But I've already made $50 on one contract, which was good. So technically, I'm up 75. I guaranteed $75 on two contracts here. Oops. But and that might sound stupid since I'm up 400 and something dollars on this one contract, but not for me. I'd rather let it run. Okay. So that's definitely very much of a personal opinion and how you look at that, how you see that. I just feel if we get some good resistance right here without a big spike in buy volume coming in, I feel like we're still going to go to the downside. So, but if we get a big spike of volume to the upside and a big long green candle to the upside, I might try to lock in a little bit more profit. But right now, we're going to let it play out and see what happens. It's good actually for the channel just to let it play out and see what happens, so everybody can kind of see that, and I'm okay with that. This is a teaching channel, so um, I'm gonna kind of just watch that. Okay, I made good money already today with the auto trader, so we're gonna get that. I'm not too stressed out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense, BK. Thank you.
And just yeah. So
Just to let you know, I did not get into the trade. I was one tick above you. Actually, I was at 69 point and a quarter.
okay,
So I did not get picked up. I got bumped, I believe, but I did not get picked up.
yeah, and
And
that's
I
go
just
ahead.
didn't feel comfortable. Obviously, you were right, and you're in the perfect spot. But I'm not trading what you're doing. I'm just, we're talking, we're having a conversation, but I just felt comfortable going a little higher,
Yeah,
just
sure.
where I was. So
And I'm glad you made that statement because yeah, you're not trading what I'm trading. You're trading what you're trading, and that one tick up is a perfect spot to get in. That's actually almost the VPOC. That's one tick short of the VPOC. So I think you have a good reason why you got in there. Um, one thing I'll give credit to is Mitchell. He found this spot early, which was great. He was very conservative to wait for his spot instead of going in early. And obviously, it's paid off for both of us there. We both taken the trade at the same spot. But I like your position at one tick higher too. I think as I said earlier, anywhere between that the VPOC and the value area low, which was 1 point. The value area low is right 68.50. The VPOC is 69.50. Is the VPOC, so that was 1 point range right there. We could have got in anywhere in that area. I think that would have been justification for a great trade. Whether it got you or it didn't, I think it was there. You could have got in anywhere between that, and you made the right call based on our method. So um, but you're a good example. That's going to happen. You're going to see that probably happen quite often to where we miss it by one tick. Our entry, and it takes off in the opposite direction, and that's okay. That's that's part of it, and we have to be okay with that. You know?
absolutely. Uh, so as a team total, we have today so far at least 2 points. So we've met our 1 point minimum, our goal. So we got that under in the books. And then as a team, we got at least two and counting. With your little trade.
Absolutely.
So, but
Absolutely, and I'll pull in. You created a really nice spreadsheet we're tracking our trades. I just don't have it pulled in yet, and I don't want to mess with it in the middle of this trade. I want people to kind of watch the trade, or I'm going to get to where tomorrow I'll have it pulled in as part of our to where I can just pull it over and put in our points that we made and let the calculations happen. But we're going to keep track of that every day here, so you can kind of see win or lose. We're going to put in our point. So whether we lose a point, we're going to put it in there, and we make a point, we're going to put it in there. If we make multiple points, we'll put them in there. If we take a couple trades and we lose on both of those, then we're going to put those in there. Okay. But one thing you're not going to see is more than a couple points lost because we take a couple trades, or 3 points lost. Because the max we want to take is 3 trades, and if we lose all three of those on a point, then that's just what it is, and we'll put those in there. So nothing's going to be hidden here. So you can see everything happen in real time on a daily basis. So we'll get that out. We'll start showing that tomorrow when I've got it ready, and that's just my fault for not having it pulled up and ready to go. But it's being tracked already from last week, so you'll see. I think we only got a couple points in there. We made six or 7 points last week, but we only put two of them in there. Um, so we'll have it tracked from that point forward. So I think our balance on that spreadsheet right now is 1,092 and some change.
correct.
That's taking commissions out and everything. So we're going to keep commissions drawn out of those, so you can see realistically what it would look like. What it does look like in our instance, but you can see as commissions being taken out, what's net there. And so I'll add today's points to that when we finish out here, and then tomorrow you'll have a visual of that, and you'll be able to see it from here forward. Okay.
Great.
All right. So we just need this thing to kind of do what it's going to do. It's just kind of hanging. Volume increased a little bit, slowing down. We're starting to see some pretty good rejection to the bottom here, aren't we? The rejects are these candles are getting some good rejection, um, which we expect because we're actually in a demand zone here. Um, so even though I don't like it, where I don't have a good position to lock in right now, I might lock in because of that. But I'll kind of watch it and see. Let's see here. We're actually let me draw this potential zone here and see what's going on. One thing you'll find out is price action happens for a reason. Okay, so this is actually an area of supply, right? I mean, of demand right here we're in. And you can see these rejections on this 1015 and 1020 candle. You can see the rejections going on right there. So we kind of want to watch that. It could bust right through that, which I hope it does, but we'll just kind of watch that and see what's going to happen. Um, I might go ahead and lock in some points just for the fact that I have a support that was broken on the 950 candle at 261.50, and I don't know that that will hold, but I've got pretty good what was old support has become pretty good resistance thus far on where I have that confirmed S circle on the 820. You see that? Um, that is, I mean, at this point, it's pretty good, strong resistance. It should be. So, for the sakes of the channel, I might just go ahead and lock in a couple points here. 266.75. I'm gonna go ahead and move that. 266.75. All right, there we go. Um, so now I've locked in 2.25 more points guaranteed. And we'll just kind of let it, if it runs all the way back up and takes us out because it wants to bust through all these old support areas that have become resistance, then that's okay. We'll let it do that and take us out. But at least we locked in a couple more points. Okay, so we're at least guaranteed at this point 3.5 points, or 3.25, well, three and a quarter points anyway. All right, you kind of understand my thought process here and why I'm saying that,
That makes perfect sense.
because
Yes.
we just want to talk through this. That's one of the beautiful things about this. This is all real time, man. This is not after the fact. So these are real time decisions you have to make, based on what you want to do and how you see the market and what your goals are. So this is the beautiful thing about a live stream. you know, Everything's open. There's no hiding it after the fact. I'm not going to be able to come back and say, "Oh, this is what I would have done. This is what I was thinking here." Well, you're hearing live what my thoughts are and what your thoughts are. People are hearing that, so I think that's a great thing. To kind of hear how it goes and to realize you might have had some of these same thoughts already and rationalizations, and that's a good thing. It's not overly difficult. It's just being, doing some common sense and in this situation, locking in a little profit. And that's what we're going to do is lock a little bit more in. But I'm still, as you can see, I'm still giving up almost 10 points right here of profit to let it run, if that makes sense. I'm not dropping my take profit to a point away or 2 points away, out of greed. I'm just not doing that. Out of being cautious, I'm not doing that. I'm going to let it do. I'm still letting it breathe, and that's the big deal. Let the market breathe, man. And if it gets you, it gets you. That's okay. You've locked in some points, and be thankful for that. Um, like I said, our philosophy here is, in our challenge in this trader is 1 point a day. So Let's watch that and just see what it does. Um, Again, I'm not having big volume right now. That's the other thing. I'm not having a lot of volume. It's just telling me that this thing's going to take off and go long again. I'm just not having a lot of volume that's convincing me of that. So that's another reason I'm not just frantically moving my uh, stop into a more of a profit area. I'm just not getting that yet. Once I start to get that, I could lock in a little bit more, but I'm just not getting that yet. So don't be too quick to act. When you're in profit there, don't overreact and just kind of let the market tell you what it's going to do. So don't try to think you know what it's going to happen because you don't. Just let the market tell you what it wants to do. There's a lot of battling going on between the long and shorts right here, so just let it play out. And once it's given us the decision which way it's going to go, well then at that point we react accordingly. But until that point, we just kind of hang out. Okay.
Uh, do you think we are in a lightning ball pattern here, building up the resting phase, uh, or
Um,
no?
I don't
And
see
then
it
that's
yet. No, I don't see it yet. I think, I mean, not that it can't happen because we're getting lower lows. We got one that's not made a lower low. It's kind of indecision. It's going to be either a supply or demand there when it's all said and done. But I don't see a lightning bolt setting up just yet. Not yet anyway. All right. You actually had it set up prior to that. You had a potential one that we got into because volume increased into that area, but it still wasn't an ideal one.
okay. Waiting for waiting for that to break. Like you said, volume is not to pick up here a little bit.
Yeah, and it could break above. If it breaks above the high of this 1025 candle, then with some increased volume, then that's going to tell us this is a good area of demand, which is actually doing. It just broke through that, so we kind of have to watch here. Let's watch volume. Don't freak out yet. Let's watch volume because we got a lot of resistances things could buck up to and just take off long. This could be the breather we were looking for before it goes short again. So from this point, we just kind of have to watch it and see. You know, don't freak out and try to lock in a lot of points and get scared here. Just let it do what it's doing. It's going to do. We've already locked in a few points, so just let it play out how it's going to play. At least that's how I look at it, and that's what I'll do here. We just have to watch it into this area. I mean, we've got resistance at 6150 right here, so let's just see if it can't break through that resistance, then it could go our way. If it breaks through with a lot of strength, then we might lock in just a little bit more. But until that happens, we're going to just kind of let it play itself out.
You're looking at were you where are you looking at for a potential trade? Do you have any zones? Uh,
Um,
I,
to the
I don't.
downside,
Yeah.
I don't have anything going on right now. I mean, there's like I said, there's a lot of resistance right here that could be you could probably draw a zone out of. Resistance zone out of, but I'm just not doing it right now because I'm in a trade first off, and I'm not looking for another one right now. But um, I think there's a lot of resistance right here, and that could be drawn, But some supply area that could be drawn, but um, I'm not drawing anything right now.
I can't see the number. What's your profit at right now?
The profit right now is at 387.50 on this one contract, 400. We're bumping into this little resistance area right here. So we got a lot of resistance going on between 65 to down to this area right now of 60. So we got a lot of resistance in there. So the market's going to have to get really strong really quick for it to bust through all that with some authority. So that's the reason I'm not just frantically, trying to move money into profit here anymore. I'm just going to let it play itself out. Ultimately, what I'm hoping the picture looks like right here is this big green candle right here at 10:30. I'm really hoping
Yes.
that becomes a new resistance area. You know, I'm hoping the low of that gets broken over the next couple candles with some strength to the downside. Then if that happens, I can lock in profit to the 262.25 area. I can lock in more profit, but I got to wait for that to happen. That's kind of the picture I'm hoping I see here. But like I said, there's a lot of battling going right here from a buy area, because we're in a demand zone right here, and it's a good demand zone, obviously, because it's gotten some rejection. But we're also in a lot of resistance area that's the market wants to continue to go short, hopefully, and so we got to let that play itself out. So we're kind of in the middle of everything here. Um, so it's just not a good place to take a new trade, but it's a good place to manage your trade that we got in earlier. So we'll kind of let this next couple candles play out. And like I said, hopefully we get some strength to the downside, and that 10:30 candle becomes a new resistance candle, a pivot candle, I should say, a resistance pivot candle. And if that does, then I can lock in um, 4 more points. But until that happens, I'm gonna wait. Or if it might not happen, and I gotta be okay with that too. But I'm hoping that's what happens. We'll just have to wait and see. There's just a lot of resistance in this area, so we're gonna let it play out. You know, hopefully for the purposes of the channel, it makes a good run to the downside and kind of confirms everything we're talking about. But if it doesn't, then that's going to be okay too. Trading is not about your ego, because if that's the case, your ego is gonna get hurt a lot, and you're gonna lose a lot of money. It's about watching the real price action, what's happening, and letting it tell the story, and you try to follow along and become part of that story from a positive standpoint. You got any more questions, kind of along those thoughts? What's been that
Uh,
mindset? What are you thinking about right now? If you were in this trade, what's your thought process?
I think, like you said, it just depends on where you are financially, where you are with the amount of money on your account. Um, but like I said, you've done this a long time. You know that just trust the system. If you're right, you're gonna get a large return, and you've locked your 1 point in plus a couple ticks now, and I think you've now locked more points. I think you got 2 points locked in. So again, not being greedy, just trusting the system that will do what you expect it to do. And I think that's what we need to learn from you, having done it for a long time. It's just trust it that it will do what you expected it to.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yep. And knowing at the same time I can be wrong, not a big deal, right? I have to be
Right.
willing to accept that, and so does everybody else, because you're going to be wrong more often than not. As far as what your big thought process is here, um, so I just have to let it play out if it's going to play out or it's going to turn around and come back in and get us. But if it does, that's okay. Like you said, I've done locked in 2.5 points at this point in time, so I'm not too. I've made my goal, and we know if we can just make 1 point a day, right? What
Right.
that could do over just in a 3 month time frame, if we let our money compound at just 1 point a day,
Yes.
we know what that can do. So, got to keep that in mind. Could we get ahead? Obviously, uh, on that pace by locking in and taking profits. Absolutely, we could. By taking profits when earlier, when it was up $600, or even right now when it's up 325. Do I lock in? Go ahead and take that off the table and get a few points ahead of the game. We could do that, but I'm up almost 3 points at this point, and I'm going to go ahead and just leave it like it is. And it's 2.25 points, what have you. Price is running. Looks like we might come in. We're getting ready to come into some good resistance area again. Um, I'm just above. My lock in is my stop is at 266 all right, 28, 66, 75, and I'm willing to leave it right there, knowing that we've got good resistance at 65. So we'll just kind of let it see what it's going to do there. But again, we're ahead by a couple points today already. So let's see if we can get lucky and get a big runner and get way ahead. And that's kind of what I'm willing to take the risk to do that because I have no risk. I mean, I have got no reason not to let it go and try to risk what I've got on the table right now because I've already got locked in guaranteed money. So I'm not going to worry about losing. I'm not going to lose that at this point. So I like the opportunity to try to get a 10-point runner out of this deal. You know, that would be great if I could do that. Um, so as a matter of fact, let me see. My entry was what was my entry at 69? Yeah, so I got it at 49, which is 10 points. So we're just kind of. I'd like to see if we can catch that on this second runner. If we can get that, then that really puts us up nice, doesn't it? So
Yes.
I just want to wait to see if it happens. And I'm willing to keep my 2 points to see if I can get 10. You know, I've
Yep.
already locked in profit, so I'm not gonna stress out about it. And volume is just not spiking to the upside, even though it could steadily make its way up there. I'm just not freaking out that it's going to go against me right now. So just not being patient, man. That's all it is. Just being patient and thinking about the bigger picture. That's kind of what's happening here. So
Yeah. Looks like right now, volume, we're going to have volume increase in this candle here from the previous, potentially the previous two. Um, the question is where they're trying to go. I don't know if it's enough to break through anything. I don't think it will.
it might not. Yeah, but we're just gonna have to let it see what it's going to do. So I think if it breaks to the upside here, then we're going to go probably long again. And probably get back into the middle of all this sideways action up in that area, and then it will take us out, and that'll be okay. But I'm not gonna stress out about it. I'm just gonna let it play out how it's gonna play out. I'll make it easy and lock in one more tick to make it an even 2.5 points there. So I will do that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So this is the fun stuff right here, man. Let it do what it's gonna do.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I can't look away.
Yeah,
Just,
well, it's something to watch. One way or the other, it's something to watch, isn't it?
yeah,
So you just kind of have to see what's happening.
yeah. And again, I want to, for those watching, will be watching in the future. Um, don't, like I said, I missed the trade by a tick. It touched me, or it didn't pick me up, rather. Um, and don't. In this case, it's not revenge trading because I didn't lose. But don't try to chase price. Don't try to catch up to it and jump in after it takes off. You know, because they will come back and take you out. I think more times than not. So wait in your position. If you get picked up, great, and if you don't, that's okay. Just wait for another great opportunity, and it will come. If not today, on another day. So don't try to jump in after it takes off. That's what a lot of people do. And I guess my understanding is they come back and the big boys, and institutional traders, come back and takes takes them out. So would you agree with that, BK?
Yeah, I mean, we could take a second entry into a good zone at a more conservative price, but come time 3 and 4, we just don't want to mess with that. You got to start thinking about like an institutional trader. Whether you like it or not, institutions, big money, feed on retail traders. That's how they move the market. That's how they make their money. So you can't think of it as like a retail. Whatever your normal thoughts are, you got to be opposite of that. If there was a way just to do opposite of what you're actually thinking, you'd probably be very successful. Um, and it's hard to do that. At time, I've even created an algorithm at one time that um, I tried to get it to do that. Actually, whatever my intentions were, it did opposite, and I just could never get it to work. But that's kind of what you need, to be quite honest, because most likely, let me just put it this way: for 95% of the traders out there, um, the big boys are doing the opposite of what they are, and the big boys are always going to win. So it's just a matter of starting to try to learn to think and see the market from a bigger standpoint, from a institutional standpoint. And when you can do that and learn the philosophies, and what you will learn that in this method, that's one of the great things. You'll start to learn and think like an institution. Don't think just from what you see. Think about from a philosophy standpoint. Why is this position happening? What's going on right here? And is it something that the institutions are doing or the retailers doing it? And we want to be on the institutional side 100% of the time. So the better we can get at being on the institutional side, the better our profits will become. Okay. All right. So here's an example. I'm going to lock in profit at 1035 at the top of that candle, even though because we broke the low of that candle. I'm going to draw a little line here so you can see that. We broke the low of this candle. So now this candle here has become a resistance candle. I'm going to draw a little yellow line here. So this is now going to become a confirmed resistance. So I'm going to copy this. I'm just talking out loud, guys. So, I'm going to copy. Yeah. Copy. Paste. So this has now become a confirmed resistance candle right here. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in profit above that. At 63.75, I'm going to lock in more profit. Okay. Now whether it takes off to the downside or not, I don't know, but I know that that's now become a confirmed resistance candle at 1035 for me. That has shown proven resistance again. So I'm going to lock in more profit here. Okay. I'm gonna lock in what is that? Three, that's six, 5.25 points, what have you. I'm gonna lock that in. Okay, we're gonna hopefully this thing will take off, and if it breaks this low of down here at this new low that we're seeing right here in this demand zone, if it breaks that 55.25 low, then I think it's going to take off to hit our profit target. But if it rejects and goes long here, then that's okay. We've made our money. We've made some decent profit for the day. Okay. But can you understand why I have locked in more profit here?
I do. I do. Yes.
Okay, that's a confirmed resistance now at 1035. You see that, right?
I, that's correct.
And
That's
that's
like you said, it broke the previous low.
right.
So or new low rather. And so, but I'm still waiting. In order for me to, I'm waiting to make a new zone for a supply zone. I'm waiting for them to break that 1020 low, and with a strong push off, and then I will have a potential zone at 1040.
That's
Uh,
exactly right. That's exactly right. Good job. That's exactly
yeah.
right. You've seen a lot of rejection out of this big demand zone here too, so that's something
Yeah.
to watch.
Yep. It
Okay.
looks like good rejection wick here. Uh, Minute left. We got volume slightly. It's gonna slightly be might be around the same lower. Uh,
Yeah, we'll just kind of let it do what it's going to do. I mean, I'm locked in at a good area of resistance right now, so this is just price taking out positions, and gaining strength that go one way or the other, and we'll just let it go whichever way it wants to go. All right. Either way, I'm cool. Either way, I'm happy with it. Got 5.25 locked in on this one point, and so we're looking at 6.25 total points today thus far on this move between two positions. So that's a good day.
that's a great day. It's a great day.
That puts us good for the week right here. Actually, we could stop right now and hit our 3 point profit for the week, right?
That's correct. You can take the rest of the week off, and you're still above your target. That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's right. All right, that's gaining strength. That looks like that's going to come back and get us. So that's a lot of buyers right here.
Yeah.
But we'll let it play out and see what it's going to do. But The volume's increasing, so time and sales, you're having a lot of green coming through with bigger order, a lot of orders. So we just kind of have to watch that.
Yep. Mm.
But that's the beautiful thing about it, man. This is fun to watch because it's just a battle, between buyers and sellers through this whole area. What are we going to do? Who's going to take control right here? Somebody needs to take control pretty soon, and they will. We're just going
Yes.
to have to watch it and see it, and it's kind of fun to watch this. And I mean, it's always fun to me to watch this in real time because you really kind of get into a granular level here and watch and see what's happening and seeing how the market moves. And what's really cool to me is you can see how most people, um, you got a big block right there to the long side, so that's definitely something we got to watch. But a big block of buyers, but so we could be getting ready to take off to the long side here, but we'll just kind of watch it. But what's cool to me is if people that have traded in the ES market for very long say that there's no way you can keep a 1 point stop and make money in the market. And this because of this what's happening right here. All this movement back and forth.
Right.
But if you try to do a 1 point stop in this movement right here, yeah, most likely you're going to get taken out more times than not. But
Exactly.
but we haven't made a trade in this area. This is not the right areas to make a trade. Our trader's already you missed the trade at 69. Okay, so you have to be able to recognize that and get into that trade then, and you'll see our 1 point stops pretty strong. You know, so this is just stresses and puts emphasis on your entries into the market. So when people say you can't do it, 1 point stop is way too tight. You need a 5 point stop or 10 point stop. That's just not. That's just waiting for disaster to happen to your account. You know, unless you're swing trading and you're trading a $25,000 account with one contract. Well, then I can definitely get into swing trading and taking a 5 or 10 point stop. But when you're trading like we are, um, on a one contract at a time for a 1 point profit, you got to have better entries. Okay,
Yeah.
and so this is kind of fun to watch that in real time, and it's just proof that it can be done, and
Absolutely.
you're going to see
And like
that
you said,
day in and day out.
this op- this opens the door to for so many people to be able to trade with a smaller account to start out with and build their account. Um, so you, like you said, you don't need $25,000 to trade one contract to do swing trading, like you said. So this allows for a good safety net. Start with a smaller account, build it up. Um, so this again opens the doors to so many people to be able to trade and learn how to trade and be able to do.
Right on, man. Right on. That's exactly right. Yep. And there's potential here. You just have to change your mindset. You have to be traders that have done it for a long time, have a lot of experience, have to change their mindset coming into our method. But traders that are brand new to the market, have never traded before, or just are fairly new to the market and just not crammed themselves with a lot of negativity, you can see that you can trade with a very small stop and a small account and make money here. But it's a mind shift that you have to do if you've been trading for a long time in this market. And if you've been trading a long time in this market from a day trading standpoint, I guarantee you, or I shouldn't say I guarantee you, I would probably bet that you're very inconsistent and you're very frustrated. You'll make money every once in a while, but you'll lose it more often than you make it. And I imagine your account suffers from that, and you can see that. So this method is proven it works. All right. All right. Well, there you go. Real time. We just got taken out, but we took a nice 5 and a quarter profits there, six total. See,
Look at the move.
yep. Look at that move. That's when you know buyers are in control right here. So this is a good spot here. All right. Good job, man. Good job, guys. That was a good trade right there.
Yeah.
Good job.
So, right. They went back to our other zone,
Yeah.
and they're just bouncing around still.
Yeah. ejected out of that zone there. Obvious for me, I will not be taking any more trades. Just 10 minutes away from 11 o'clock. We had a good day today. I mean, so we will watch the market for fun here for the next few minutes, and I'll probably sign off if you don't have any more questions in the next 10 or 15, 20 minutes or so. But if anybody has questions on that aren't like Mitchell or Paul or anybody that's on right now that has other questions, throw them in there. We can discuss them. Especially now that I'm out of a trade and kind of focus a little bit more and be a little more attentive how we answer the question. But this just a good job, man. It was a good day of trading, and I hope people that watch this kind of understand the whole that everything that just happened there and why it happened and why we took the trade, our management philosophy on that trade. We locked in good at the right times. Um, we lost. I mean, you could look at it and say, well, I only made what was it, $400 or so, or on that last runner, I could have made six plus. So you might say, well, you threw away $200, but I would tell you that's the wrong way to look at it. So um, because sometimes you're going to have, well, you might have locked in that 600 and it went 1,200 in your favor, and I can say you threw away $600. So it could go either way you look at it. Um, so just kind of, I hope you kind of learn through the method and kind of watch the philosophy and the thought process. And one thing I'm going to tell you here, guys, is I'll probably do more talking than I will do as we get further into this thing here, but just trying to be more talkative up front and try to talk through my thought processes a little bit more. But I don't like to talk. That's the bottom line. I don't do a lot of talking, and hopefully I'll have Soto and Mitchell to do a lot more of that as we kind of get going in here. But just wanted to kind of talk my way through these trades today so you could see them. But you can see there's a lot going on here. We've got a lot of stuff drawn on this chart. If you just came in right now and looked at all this stuff, you'd be lost probably and confused of what everything is. But if you watch this from the beginning, I think you'll see that we kind of explain everything we're doing and everything that's drawn on the charts, from lines to circles to order flow profiles to everything. I think you'll understand why and how that all plays in. So if you're just jumping on towards the end of this thing for whatever reason, or just watching it, kind of go back to the beginning and bear through it and my babbling and kind of learn why we've done what we've done here.
And again, we picked. Here's the cool thing: we picked out the 820 zone right before I think the market even opened, or the big boys jumped in at 8:30 or 9:30 Eastern. Uh, so and we got a double, and I think we got a double top right now, or close to double top here. It's not finished yet, but again, what BK's been able to do and teach us is to find the trade zones before the boys go in turn. So before the turn, we're able to place a trade, find a place to place a trade if we follow all the methods and all the rules, and be able to jump in to make a point, lock it in, and be done. So again, I think that's amazing. And obviously, it's great. So thank
Oh,
you again for sharing.
oh, absolutely, yeah, man. And I know you're kind of disappointed because you didn't get a trade in this morning.
Can you tell my voice?
Yeah, you're a little depressed. I can tell in your voice, but I know because you love to trade, and
I
it's
do.
very exciting, and I get
Yes.
it. And I'm with you. You know, um, but that's but you did good today because you didn't get in on your terms. That's the kicker. That's the thing you got to look at. Uh, almost it came one tick into your terms. That's cool. I mean that means you're in the right area, right? It just went one tick early, but I'm proud of you for being very patient and not trying to chase the trade. That's a
Yes.
big deal. That's a really big deal that you didn't try to chase it. So good job there. And guess what? Tomorrow's another day. You
Right.
plan on trading this afternoon as well?
No. No, I don't do that anymore. I got that out of my system. Nothing wrong with it. Just said I enjoy the morning better. I like to be in and out. I feel I know the personality. I feel like I know the personality better in the morning. So to me, in the afternoon is a little less predictable. What I'm used to. So no, I am not doing the afternoon.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Like you said, it's okay if you decide to do that in the afternoon during that certain 2.5 hour window there, 3 hour window. You get a pretty good price movement, but like Soto said, the morning is kind of the best time to trade. We know the big boys are in there in the morning for sure. Um, they're going to be in there in the afternoon a little bit, but we know the majority of them are in the mornings, and that's when we want the best. That's when the best volume is going to be, and that's where we want to be in on. So, so that's always been my deal there. I'm usually done in the mornings very quickly, and I'm out. But like I said, since we committed to doing this live stream and building this channel and wanting to teach people how to do this for free, we're gonna go ahead and stick through at least a couple hours in the mornings, and then we can go on with the rest of our day at that point. But um, look forward to it, to doing it and to keep it going, and hopefully people can learn. And I really do hope this channel builds, and I want it to build organically. I'm not going to try to put a bunch of money behind it to kind of grow the channel through marketing and advertising. I want it to grow organically through word of mouth and people to stumble upon it, and I want to see it happen in a very organic fashion, I guess I should say. Um, so we might be.
Looks like we have a comment from Paul. Um, he must have, I guess, made a trade here. I'm not
Mo
sure.
money, he said.
Uh,
Mo money. Paul, did you get into the trade right here, or you just commenting on the conversation?
I know we're a little delayed, so I'm sure he will respond here in a minute.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, again, I think something I had to learn, and it didn't take me long to learn, but I did have to learn is be patient and wait for tomorrow. Like you said, don't revenge trade, don't chase the prize. There's gonna be a tomorrow. Just like last week, I got 7, 8 points, 6 points. I know it can happen again this week or the week after. So, just my goal is to get net three a week, and let the account grow. So right now, I did restart my account to 1,000 last week, and we made those 2 points after I restarted it. So I'm still sitting at 1,000. $92.72 after commissions with the program we're using with Ninja Trader.
Nice.
Um, and so and we also have a Excel spreadsheet that you will be able to see what the team is doing um, as a combined effort. But also individually, you'll be able to see just what one individual can do as they grow the account. We'll show you that also as we continue. And like I said, our goal is to get three a week. Some weeks we're gonna have a lot more than that. Some weeks we may have less than that. So, and that's okay. We'll average it out, and you will see in a short time how the account is able to grow with just $1,000 and following the method. So,
That's it. That's it. This is not a quick get rich overnight uh, methodology or scheme. This is definitely a way you can get rich, but you just got to do it the right way and methodically. And if you do it the right way, it won't take very long. So to make good money, everybody's definition of rich is different, but the fact that you could do this full time for a living and make your own schedule and be home and work an hour or two or less a day, um, there's riches in that right there. So
it
it
is.
depends on how you look at it. But I will say you can make a great living if you give it the opportunity and you give it the time and you take the time to study and master the method and get really good at the market. Then you can do very well. So
All right. Well, it looks like we're coming towards our end of the day here.
Yep.
Uh, and like I said, I don't see anything building up yet. We could have a strong push out of here to long or short, and we'll have a potential zone at 10:55 if it builds up. But like I said, we won't be around to see it. So, anything else, BK? You want to
No, I
finish?
think I'm good, man. You guys, no more questions, or you don't have any more questions on this, we can go ahead and get signed off and just call it another great day. 6 points on the team here today, so that was good. And
Great.
we'll add that to the spreadsheet, and we kind of keep that thing moving live, and then make tomorrow another day. So that was a good Monday.
That's great. Well, congrats, and have everybody have a great day.
All right, guys, signing off. And again, thanks for taking the time to watch this video and join the live stream, guys. And we're here every week, Monday through Friday. So we'll answer any questions you have. There's no dumb questions here. So jump on and let's kind of learn this method together. And we look forward to y'all becoming a part of the Titan Futures community and the family here. And hopefully we can get you some success in the market. All right, guys. I hope you have a great day today, and you guys be careful. God bless, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye bye.